Okay. Shall I just start?
Nope, I'm going to do an intro in just a second. All righty. Well, welcome to the Sing Your Heart Song Summit. We have been so privileged to hear some wonderful presenters, and my next presenter, Brenda Adelman, is right up there with everyone else with having an amazing story. In fact, Brenda has been on many stages sharing her story, her one-person show, My Brooklyn Hamlet, which is a story about forgiveness. And forgiveness is, we just heard recently with Jackie, is such an important and essential element of our lives. Brenda is an actor. She brings so much life to the stage and has received. One of the things that I think is really cool that I saw that she's received is that she is the recipient of the Hero of Forgiveness Award. How cool is that? So without further ado, let us welcome Brenda Adelman, who is a hero of forgiveness.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So you can see my slides, right? Awesome. And I think I have about an hour, a little less now, right? So I haven't necessarily timed this looking at the time. So great. I'm so excited to be here. I created a new presentation for you guys. And so let me go through it. It'd be nice if I could actually read my screen because I can't really read the top of it here. But I think it says discover my 3-step system for confidently presenting your authentic signature story on stage. Even if your story feels emotional or unsafe, so that you can spread your message across the world, express yourself fully, and make money in the process. And yes, I am a critically acclaimed actor with a one-woman show that I've performed all over the world. And I have a Hero of Forgiveness Award. The funny part about that is that it is cool, but of course, usually had to have lived through something pretty devastating and healed from it in order to get it. But I know that a lot of people are suffering in the world, and so whenever I can share how I forgive unforgivable, which I will, which most people would think is unforgivable, I'll share a few tips and stuff on that as well, even though this is about presentation. So this is about healing through storytelling and presenting your story to others powerfully, unapologetically, creative, and with excellence for impact and income. And it's all different ways of telling your story. So yes, I've done my show on stages in 4 countries and 10 states. And I also most recently told my story in a 4-minute segment on CBS News. So I know your audience are people who really have a message and a story, and they want their voice heard, and they want to be seen. So different ways to do that. Mine is through a creative talk or a one-person show, but that has led to all the other places I've been able to share my story. So I'll be teaching on that. I'm giving a very specific exercise that I only give to my clients on how to find your story here, because I wanted it super valuable for everybody. I can't remember what free gifts I offered. So if you know later, that would be great. But I offered something, an additional thing that I don't think I offered before. So I put that in here. So tell me afterwards. Okay, so this is for everyone, and you can write in the chat, although I cannot multitask right now. But if there is something important that someone says in the chat, please just chime up and tell me, because I just chime in and tell me, because I won't be able to hear. But I'm very much into like answering questions along the way and stuff like that. And just for the people watching, this is for you to ask yourself, how soon do you need to be telling your personal story? So in the chat, you could write, I wish I would have told it yesterday. Like most of my clients who come to me literally on average been thinking about telling their story in public for 7 years. I have had people for decades and it's mostly because, well, there's a lot of reasons. There are a lot of reasons, but a lot of people who do come to me have had a secret, a family secret, and there's shame, there's guilt, there's unforgiveness, there is fear around it as well. And that's process is very much about crafting your story for excellence, but also healing your story at a very deep level. And what I don't want is for anyone to have their song die with their song inside them, right? Okay, I really want to look at that chat, but I won't because I don't want to lose this presentation. And we're talking real, raw, and authentic. The reason I've had the success with my show is because I'm real, raw, and authentic, along with having humor in there and having craft. So also you want to look at what's been your biggest challenge. So for those people, those clients I've talked about who have had these family secrets and haven't necessarily healed some of that stuff, they're still looking at their family dynamic. Other people are just, they say speaking is one of the biggest fears that people have. And I'll talk about fears in a little while. So some people, it's not the story, it's just the fear of being out there. And I'll talk about that so that you can heal that hopefully by the end of this time. You're in the right, are a brave leader. It takes bravery to tell you, especially if you grew up in a family, maybe like a lot of people have, where it was safer to not tell a story or safer to feel like you're invisible. So this is about being brave, but it's about maybe growing that part of ourselves up that feels like we have to hide, knowing that the age we are at, we can take care of ourselves. We can show who we are. We can speak our truth. I don't ever teach vilifying anyone. So that's a whole nother subject. So that's which people can ask questions about. It's for people who are like afraid to share about someone in their family. It's like, I don't teach vilifying, but I do teach speaking your truth as an adult. So you're a brave leader, an aspiring business owner, or business owner who has lived through a big and painful event and come out the other side, or on the way to coming out the other side. You don't have to be completely healed. And this is specific to this webinar because it's about healing through story. You're ready to share your lessons and your marketing to make the world a better place? Yes, right? Attract clients. If I would imagine there's a lot of people who are the CEO of their business. And so you want to attract clients and opportunities to you for sharing the boldest, most authentic you. I would be so happy at the end of this if whoever's here might at all feel like to hide, that they understand that they're hiding. Not to be confused with you have to do everything, because I don't teach that either, but there's a part of you that's hiding something that you heal that, and then and you don't have to fit into the box of how everybody else is. This is about being you. So the reality is, though, that there are 3 really big fears from teaching this for so long, and I want to address so that once we address them, we can shine light on them and move them out of the way so they don't have to stop you anymore. One is, I will be judged, right? So it might not even be that you have a big, hairy story. It might just be that, you don't have the skills to present, or you're just not the best that you could be yet, or you never learned. Usually a lot of entrepreneurs don't know how to present. Like you've never learned how to do that. So you have this fear you'll be judged. It will be too emotional. So a lot of people who come to me, because I have such a big story too, I'm honored to hear, I guess I'm honored. It breaks my heart too, to hear a lot of stories that are very emotional, and people hold themselves back because they're afraid they'll be too emotional if they tell their story, or no one will listen to me. Those are the 3 big fears. So what you're going to discover today is how I went from, you're basically someone who was hiding, who lost everything, who didn't want to be in the limelight, who was scared, didn't feel like it's enough, to being a leader in the field of forgiveness, self-love, setting healthy boundaries. And I became an award-winning actor who has performed my critically acclaimed one-woman show, my Brooklyn Hamlet, worldwide for over 12,000 people, live and more virtually. I've done 2 virtual productions at a theater in LA and San Diego this year, and also got accepted just 15 minutes of my story into a festival in New York. I did it live for a nonprofit. Like there's so many different opportunities for you to tell your story. I've been interviewed in over 200 outlets, including CBS, Fox TV, NPR, and Reinvention Radio. I'm going to share how telling my story helped me heal the very core of my being, and that is the reason I did it. I would be telling my story in public, but it was the way I help other people that drove me when I was afraid to keep doing it or learning how to be better. And then it was my being able to express myself, because I teach a very creative way of doing it, and being paid kept me going. Like, I can reach more people if I'm paid for what I do, that because I can spend more time on it. And now I have the honor of teaching my students how to share their stories boldly and to make a real difference in the world. My message is forgiveness, but I want you to think about this today, and I'm going to give you the exercise. Like, what's the theme of your life? What is it what's the message that when only you can share it will change people's lives? So yes, I'm going to give you how to quickly find the right events to focus on from your big life experiences, so you don't waste time and effort sharing stories that won't engage your audience or fans. I can't remember about my show, so let me just talk about it here for a second. And my story, my Brooklyn Hamlet. My very big story is that my father shot and killed my mother and married her sister, my aunt, in 1995. And I was completely devastated, completely hiding, felt like damaged goods. What happened in my family. Didn't want to go on, definitely thought about suicide. And the one show is about the power of forgiveness and the power I found once I was able to actually express the anger in a healthy way instead of suppressing and going right to forgiveness. And when I found forgiveness, I actually made the decision to take my dad to court for wrongful death after he got out of prison, but from a place of complete self-honor and self-love versus vengeance. My show Brooklyn Hamlet, because when I felt so alone, so look at your own lives where you feel alone in what you've lived through. When I felt alone, like nobody else experienced what I did, I knew Shakespeare, I knew Hamlet, I knew a character in literature, lived through something like I did, and that actually gave me solace. And who knew at the time that then I would be putting soliloquies from Hamlet into my very New York story for those moments in my 60-minute show when the emotions are too much and someone would sing, but if I sang, people would, the audience, I don't want to do that. So I knew how to do Shakespeare. And so there's a few soliloquies for when the emotions are too much. So what I'm telling you with this is, number one, this is dramatic, but it's an event, not a story. My father killed my mother and married my aunt. I have been speaking about this for many years. I've healed this to the core of my being, and I teach about this. And I teach you, whatever you're going through, to know that you can get to the other side of what you're experiencing. And I didn't know at the time that, so you want to look at your own life too, that everything would lead able to creatively express myself and heal, because I was already an actress. I already knew about Shakespeare. So you want to look at your, and right now say, okay, let me go really deep and let me see what skills, what makes me unique. How can I tell this story just like I do? Like, I was coaching someone the other day in a class, and I said, I just had this feeling that we did poetry. And when she told me she did, and she's an entrepreneur, I said, and she's on the debate team in high school, I was like, I want you doing slam poetry in your talk. So I want you guys to look at how you can set yourself apart, but don't go too far. This is never about self-doubt or like, I'm not enough. It's always about, I'm so the way I am. Let me just think outside of the box. Okay. My big promise to you is that I'm going to share 3 simple steps for crafting and confidently performing or presenting your authentic signature story on stage and on video. My one has also been translated into a keynote. I've done workshop. I've done virtual. I've done live. I've been a guest on a lot of podcasts, radio shows, TV shows, and also guest teacher in masterminds. I put my story in everything, 2 minutes to 75 minutes. Some of the places I've been and some of the things that for you, imagine this. When you have your story crafted in such an excellent way. And it's possible. It takes dedication and excellence. Just some pictures on stage in Sedona, on the cover of a magazine, the Jewish Renaissance, out of London. Michael Beckwith, one of my mentors. I was at a conference that he was the keynote presenter. One of the podcasts. That's a promotional poster at the bottom left, and on the right, I was in Hawaii. This is the power of energy. I was in Hawaii, and I just was there for a short vacation. And I just was like, I saw that podium and I was like, I just want a picture of me speaking. And literally that energy turned into me doing my show several times in Hawaii when it was just a vacation, the trip going from 3 weeks to 3 months, getting my Hero of Forgiveness Award, speaking all over the place, volunteering with Youth at Risk, doing my jobs, getting press coverage. So it's about, I really do believe it's about your energy, releasing the self-doubt, asking for clarity, and then taking action in the world. This was a client of mine, Sherry, who was a singer. I want you can do. Very successful singer already, who saw my show and was inspired to write her own show and put her story into it. So, and went on to sell out, right? The difference was she put her story in. She was very spiritual, but she knew how to event in her life, a story. So for example, I mentioned that before, so with what happened with my family, I wasn't even in the teaching on the slide. So what happened in my family is that her father killing my mother is an event. That's something. So think about it. You have these events in your life. That was an event that happens, but that's not going to make people come and hire me. What's going to have them come back and hire me is a beginning. I talk about how amazing they were. They big characters, big love, big joy. And then what happened? My father shot and killed my mother. And then the third part of the ending is a shift to I found forgiveness. So I want you to think about the events in your life and then do the beginning, the middle, and end. This was Sarah. And the reason I put this one up here is because telling your story can make you money and being authentic can make you money. Okay, so I promise I'm going to share these three different steps with you. One very, very important exercise, and I want you to commit your turn. It's your turn to say what would I don't think I introduced this yet, so I'll give them to you, but I want you to think about which step you're going to take and think about how you're going to make more money using your story, how you're going to sell out a conference perhaps, or be a guest at a conference with your story. Okay, so that's what I'm promising you. And here are your 3 steps. Crafting your story. I would say finding the right story to share is the absolute first place you should be. And I know everything I teach is because I made so many mistakes and lost years of my life and went on a circuitous route and didn't get paid years. You want to find the right story to share. And let me give you the exercise. And because that's one of the biggest questions I have from people who come in to study with me is, I have such a big life story. I just don't know. So this is what this exercise is going to help you with. So, okay. I want you to, and you might have done something like this, and that's okay. You might have done something like this, but listen to how I teach it. I've even just this year alone, because I do these classes and one-on-one with people, I've helped develop and direct for 80 people or so, probably more, because I'm working with like 12 in one class right now. So this works, and it can work quickly. But I do want you to take time with the exercise as well. So you take a piece of paper, you take paper, notebook, and you have your age stages in 7-year segments, 0 to 7, 7 to 14, 14 to 21. My math is so bad, so I won't do like 15 to 22 or whatever like that, but 0 to 7, 7 to 14, 1 page for each one. If you don't remember anything from age stage 0 to 7, don't worry about it right now. And then you do that until your age right now. Right now, jot down some notes, and then I want you to spend time with this exercise, because what you'll be doing is writing down bullet points of events in your life. They must be events that were juicy, outrageous, devastating. It could be someone you loved so deeply. It could be a trip you took overseas that changed everything. It could be the love of your life who died. It could be a friend who had cancer. It could be your parents fighting and you remembering a terrible time, abuse. It could be any number of things, but they have to be juicy for you. And so what I mean is, it wouldn't just be a biography. It would just be, okay, I changed my career, or I got fired. It would not, being fired alone would not be a juicy event unless it was like your dream, for example, your dream job, you're about to get a promotion and you kind of went in to the boss's office, you thought you're getting a promotion and they fired you. And then you were devastated and your self-esteem, like then it would be a juicy story. If it's just, and I take this because this was one of my clients who did this. If it's just, well, I got laid off and then I found my purpose, in and of itself, that's not interesting. So always remember, if it's interesting to you, doesn't make you like your heart beat faster or doesn't trigger something, then it's not interested in the audience. Your audience won't be interested. And so that's probably the biggest thing I see is people don't understand the difference between sharing to you and sharing a riveting story. And some of this is because we've been taught to hide things, or like everything's okay. Like maybe that being fired was devastating, but because you learned to survive and just move on, you actually haven't looked at it. So I want you to first look at the juicy things. And if something is potentially juicy, you can write it down there, but this is just bullet. What I don't want you to do is spend hours, days, years writing the wrong story that nobody cares about. It might be too general, or you haven't gone deep enough with. My process is sharing your secrets. They're not secrets by the time you share it, but it's something that probably was a secret. Talk about that much. Like I have worked with people who have had suicides in their family. Nobody talks about it. And then all of a sudden, when they do talk about it, all of a sudden they bring that person to life again. So I want you to think about that. One way to really get your mind to kind of open up would be maybe to do a little meditation beforehand and just, close your eyes, breathe in, allow your muse to dance, to come alive, to remind you of different memories and different things. And take just a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. And so it's not a mental exercise, it's a heart exercise. You could ask a question with the theme of this summit of, what does your voice want to hear? What do you want to see about yourself? Let it be a gentle process. And it's just bullet points. That's this part of this exercise. The next part of this exercise would be, and this is really quick, I know. And I will say, let me just say one other thing is that, write everything down and then put it down, take days and then go back to it, because you'll probably remember more things. I want you to make sure to fill in 1 to 3 bullet points in every age stage, except that first one if you don't remember things. But otherwise, it's not. Usually we find one age stage, let's say teenage years, you have like 20. You can write those 20 bullet points if you want, but only if you make sure to fill 1 to 2 to 5 bullet points in the other ones as well, which is very important for the last part of this exercise that I can give you here. So the last part is that when you come back to it, you circle patterns. So for example, if some of the things would be like, when I was 5, my fight my parents had. So the bullet point would be a bathtub fight with my parents. Because I remember, I don't have to write more than that because that's for me. I don't want you guys taking a lot of time with stuff if you want to get something finished quickly, because that is where I think the gold is, actually finishing and getting it out there. If you want to write more, you can, but do this exercise first. And you're not throwing away the other thing. You can always work on them afterwards, but this is how the process works, because I have a lot of 6 and 8 week classes. This is how it works, where people have something like a 5-minute talk in 6 or 8 weeks. Okay. So that's enough of a bullet point for me to remember and to be triggered by it. Okay. Another one would be, I lost my virginity when I was 15. And what I would say for a bullet, I could just say lost virginity at 15, because I know the rest of the story. And then my mother was murdered at, okay. Those could be the 3 that I look at. I might have 5, but those 3, as long as you have 3 in different age stages, you can do this. So this is where you would circle patterns that you see. So I have more bullet points in the other age stages, but I could look at those 3 things and say there's a pattern in those. So let me give you a little bit more story on them, because you're looking at your life with this. So when my mother and father had that fight in the bathtub, she was getting out of the bathtub and she was saying that my father was burning her, and he was saying, I'm taking her out of the bathtub. But it was very like scarring for me at the time. But what also happened is he left for, I don't know how long, a little while. He left her for another woman. Okay, so that's a little bit of backstory. And if you want, you can write a little bit, like 1 paragraph of backstory underneath it for you, if that's easier. Okay, losing my virginity. I was 15. I was in love with this guy, and I went to a club with some friends, and it turned out that he fooled around with one of my best friends. And then I actually went to a hotel and had sex with him. So I'm talking about real talk with Brenda. Okay. But I want you guys to get real. This is real stuff. And what I will say about that particular scene is, when I was doing this exercise so many years ago, it was devastating to me because I had shame about it. Now I have written it out into a scene in my one-woman show. It's 3 people in it. And it is like one of the funniest scenes for me to do, because literally as you write, you do this and the crafting, you are writing your life into being in a powerful way. Okay. There's that. And what I will say is, so that happened. And then I ended up not a friendship with her and not being with him. And then my father killing my mother was obviously also devastating, and didn't have a family anymore, but also he went on and married my aunt. This is where it is good to have a mentor like me, or anyone who knows their stuff, but you want to look at what is the pattern for you. There could be 2 patterns there for me. So you look at your own life and the rest of it and what you've been through. It could be betrayal, because in each of those situations, there was another person involved, right? But that's actually not that's not the through line of what I've used in my show, even though it's in there or in my work. Instead, it's abandonment. For me, based on my life, abandonment, because my father left at that time. He came back, but he left. That was the first time I experienced that. And then I lost my friend, the boy that I was in love with. And then my father did go with my aunt, but I had no family. And if I went further with it, I would look at, where have I abandoned myself? So this is where this is very deep work, and you want to look at where you are. And I have a cool bonus for you guys. So it's potentially I can help you with this for free. So, but do this work. This is the work. My show is about forgiveness, or rather the ending of it. So I also want you all to think about, what's the end result that you leave the audience with, whereas the rest of the anything but about forgiveness. So to be dramatic and to be captivating, you have to have it be dramatic and captivating, but you want to build beyond what you're sharing. Okay. So, and if you have any questions, just write them in the chat and I will look afterwards if we have any time. That is a powerful exercise though. Okay, a big mistake in this phase is focusing on being interesting with what story you choose, or being entertaining instead of being authentic. I cannot tell you enough. I was in top acting classes in Los Angeles, top writing classes for so many years. It's how I've also developed to the point that I have. That will come. You need to be authentic. The biggest laughs I've ever gotten is from putting my craft of being an actor with being authentic, not looking for the laugh. Great to have humor if you have it. And I have a lot of humor in my show, believe it or not, but it's about being authentic. That is what's going to engage people. When you are trying to be interesting, you're telling the universe you aren't enough, or that you're afraid of being seen, right? Everybody knows someone who's got to make a joke. I say that too, because the very first time I put up my one-person show, even when I talked about how I wanted to kill myself, I would go to that point in the show and then be like, oh, I got it. And I try to take care of people instead of just being seen and letting people see. Obviously, I was healthy, whatever year it was. I knew it was the year I'm on stage, but in the beginning, I was afraid to really let people witness that because I wasn't completely yet. And as I healed myself more, then I could really be that space on stage and not have anybody have stuck energy. So I just say, if that's what you're dealing with, why will people follow you and hire you if you're trying to be interesting instead of just being authentic? A big fear is that you're afraid to be judged. And it's true, people are judging you anyway. So not telling your story, not using your voice and expressing yourself fully hurts you the most and gets you judged anyway. So why not go for it? Be courageous enough to inspire others and ignore those who judge. And that is, that's definitely my experience too. I would so rather be judged for being too over the top than being small, because it sucks feeling small and more. You develop the thicker skin, or you just realize that the people who are judging, and this is what I've experienced too. Sometimes people judge you for being too much or telling your story too much or doing too much, but it's because they're not doing it. They actually want to do it more. They might not like it, but they're not going to judge you. It's just not for them. Number one secret to success, I never look outside myself for validation like I used to. I look within myself at the story I'm telling myself, and then I reframe it to empower myself to take inspired action. Really, how you become successful at anything is expanding into who you already are, and then taking your actions from space or something bigger than you, God, spirit, presence, whatever that is for you. That was on the top of a volcano in Hawaii. Okay. Yes. So the next step in that writing exercise, after you look at the patterns, is then also looking at the lessons. So you can see how you're going to share that in your work, in your marketing, on your website, in your interviews. A couple more things, all from telling my story. That's an action shot on the left-hand side, put in there to inspire you guys to really go for it. I was on a panel for Forgive Rabbis that was in Arizona. I was interviewed for something called the Legacy Series in LA on the right. And on the bottom, I'm on a panel for the LA Women's Theater Festival Empowerment Day. This is from taking a stand with your story, knowing what you're about, okay? And are you ready? I say this first because are you ready to believe you will succeed? Because that's the first step. If you doubt yourself, then when challenges come in, you'll stop or you'll run away. I teach this because I ran away from after I did my show the first time, it was like 3, 4, 5 weeks, that performance, successful, but I wasn't healed. So I ran away for 2 years, finished my master's program, thank God, and learned how to heal. I don't want you guys to waste more time. I think one of the things we've all learned this year, if we haven't already learned it in our life, is time can, what you thought you could do can disappear, right? I thought I'd be going on the road. I can't go on the road right now. I've done stuff virtually. So 3 steps to succeed. Successfully craft and perform your signature story. Handle the emotions of your story. Do the inner work at the same time that you are crafting and sharing your story, because if you don't, then that's when you'll stop. And I know, because I do so much storytelling work, I hear so many stories, that your story, something you've lived through, is important for someone else to know they're not alone. You'll help someone if you're brave enough to tell your story. Biggest mistake, thinking you can wing it, muscle your way through it, not get help with your writing and presenting, and skip the inner work and still have it be a fun process. So you can probably all those things, and I did some of them, but I was miserable. Oh yeah, how many of us know how to muscle through things? But that's not flow. So get the help that you need, especially with the crafting. You know the story so well, but it doesn't mean it's going to translate on stage or to other people. And you don't have to be miserable, right? I took all that time off because I was so unhappy. And then I did the inner work and I rewrote the ending of my show to be about forgiveness, because actually the first time show, the ending was, will I ever love and trust again? So your story can evolve as you do. And remember, you don't have to share anything ready to share. That's another big thing. People in the beginning are afraid to share because of the family roles, and you don't have to, but you do want to write it for yourself. That's because then you get to witness what you've been through and just love yourself through that. Only share what you're ready to share. You are the director of your story. Be honest. So I invite you to take the next 10 days, your story, do the exercises I'm giving you, and include all the correct names when you're writing it. Because also sometimes I've definitely had this happen in my live classes. Someone will come in and really like have a horrible parent that abused them terribly. And they'll say, oh, I just can't do it because I don't want to make my mother out to be a monster. By the way, that woman came back to class and ended up having the most wonderful story that impacted people, because I did a showcase back before pre-COVID and the audience was astounded and she was healed. You don't have to make the person into a monster. You're just telling the truth. I never teach people to vilify anyone, but she was so healed by putting it down on the pages and seeing the truth of what she lived through. We want to help our inner child, right? If you start editing in like a first stage where you're not putting something out, you're literally closing down your voice. You're doing that to yourself. You always, set it on fire afterwards and so that nobody will find it, right? But you want to write down your story so you can witness. Connect to your why. Every time you get nervous, every time you're like, I do this, just connect to your why and the cost for not sharing your story. Example of powerful whys. I'm sorry, I'm rushing through this. I realize this is probably, I don't know. I want to get to everything. I don't want it to be too long. Okay. My powerful why in the very beginning was to save my mother, even though that makes no sense. So it doesn't even have to make logical sense because obviously she wasn't coming back. But of course, the bigger thing is helping other women or men that were in her situation. So I won't ever stop telling my story. Someone will hear it and be like, they're in a domestic violence situation, or they know somebody and they're not looking. To help, I work with a lot of health coaches to help people with a similar health challenge. To fully express your voice that has been stifled until now, and to inspire someone to know they can be. And those are just a few things that they could be hard. It could be hard to share your story, to expose yourself. And when you do, and you do the healing exercises at the same time, you can really make a difference. I think it's fear. I'm so emotional that I'll cry when I'm sharing or be super angry, and that will turn my audience, members, listeners off, or I'll get depressed. And yes, that is actually true. So that's why the emotional work I teach, and there's other people who teach it, I'm sure. I teach a very specific technique. You want to actually not squash that. You do want to get that anger out or those tears out in a really healthy way, so that when you're sharing, again, I'm always concerned with my clients, you're feeling, maybe you're not like happy, ha ha ha, but you're fully expressed. You know that you've done, you can do, and then you afterwards you can like give yourself love or do some writing. Like, it's important. So it's about healing yourself so that you can experience real joy and intimacy again and make a big impact. You heal. So I don't know how to, not vomiting out on the stage or in your videos, right? You're not being so angry that or sad that your audience has to worry about you. You're actually one step ahead of them. So I will express anger as a character. I will express the moment, but Brenda, I'm not angry. Same thing, tears. I might have tears come up because as a good actress, you want that to come up, but I'm also in control of it because of all the inner work I've done. Crying about the loss of my mother on stage, it's real, and I have my witness there. So nobody has to worry about me. They can be activated themselves. You're in charge. You entertain, inspire, and persuade an audience. And when you get to the other side, it is amazing. You attract in a spaciousness, love, joy, connection, intimacy, all those things that are kind of stolen from us when we've been abused or we're in shame. Another couple of things, one of my idols, Eva Ensler, I got to do a workshop that she was in, and I also got to perform my show in one of her festivals. Just all these opportunities that come from being the best at what you do. So think about what's your big why, and is it big enough to get you writing and sharing your story, and even willing to be a fool? I tell people in my classes, mostly my groups, please be a fool on video in this rehearsal space. Please be a fool telling your story. Be bad, because that is the only way you'll be amazing. You can be mediocre in public, or you can be really bad, learn from it, and be amazing. It's fun. It actually becomes fun. Okay, so then sharing your story. Biggest mistake, sharing it with the wrong person. Instead of waiting until you're emotionally strong enough, you share it prematurely and potentially with the wrong person. There's a lot of people you may want to share your story with, particularly family members who may remember what you've been through, right? Makes sense, totally makes sense. But I have had so many bad things happen. Like clients come to me who are like shut down because these family members oftentimes want to help you and they don't want to know about, like they see the emotions or the upset or the anger and they don't understand that's part of the process of healing and telling your story. So that's really careful, because they mean well often, and then all of a sudden they don't want you to tell the story and your muse is completely cut down, and they don't understand that that emotion is healthy, because a lot of people don't know how to, haven't been taught how to handle their emotions in a healthy way. So when you're ready, find someone supportive to read your material to, because it will give you the confidence to continue when you see the difference. So sharing your material successfully, make sure you're being authentic and you've done at least right. It is a pet peeve of mine, coach, when people share and I know that they've done it last minute because it's not good at all. And literally the difference between it not being good at all and being like, oh, I can see possibility there, is putting it down, doing one rewrite the next day, even in a short piece. And why it's a pet peeve of mine too is because I was in a top acting class for 3 years where I developed, there were 100 people in class. I had to fight to get stage time with the master teacher. And so you better believe I was rehearsing, I was rewriting, I was doing everything I could so that when I got in front of the teacher, I wasn't given notes on, could have actually gotten better at myself. So people, you'll have exponential growth if you do at least one rewrite before you share it. Don't take any feedback personally, listen and learn. The more you do this, the more you'll get in touch. Oh yeah, I get it. I get it now. I understand why that was repetitive, or I get it why that person didn't lean in. And remember that whatever judgment there is, sometimes people are giving you feedback. It's not judgment. It's literally just to make you better. So don't take on judgment. If you're skilled and you're getting the help you need, then if you someplace else and someone is judgy, it's about them. It's not about you. It's because they're in touch with themselves, or they don't understand what you're sharing yet. That's why you want to be careful about who you're sharing with. Do cuts and edits. It's your darlings. I think that was Stephen King who said that, to make it a better story. When people are starting out, they're like, I have 2 hours worth of stuff, I can't cut it, or I have a half an hour video on my site, and nobody will listen to that. My goal is to get your stuff as short as possible and concise and riveting so that it's a better story. Doesn't mean you can't go back to that other stuff. Like I said, I've done my show for 15 minutes. Then I went back and I put stuff in and I have my long show again, or keynote. Imagine the feeling when you actually have a story that works and helps people every single time. Are you ready to start sharing your authentic story and making a big difference in the world? If you even have like a kernel of that, then oh my God, that's so exciting, because you're in the right place. Don't squash it. I implore you, you're here on this summit. Do what you need to do to get your story out there, and get it out in an excellent way, not in a mediocre way, excellent way. So get the help that you need. I was in master classes for years And I've been on stages for years and I always make it better. So, time to make good on your promise. Which of these are you going to work? Crafting your story, because otherwise it's just information, right? Are you going to craft your story? And part of that was finding your story. And I give you a very specific exercise. And I invite you to do it, even if you've done something like this before, because that have been with me for a while, and they'll have done this and they'll be in several of my classes and they'll do it again and they'll find different stories or different levels. Handle the emotions of your story and share your story. Which are you going to commit? Everybody's at different levels. Are you ready to share it, but you just haven't booked something yet? Are you ready to go deeper into the emotional part and heal that? And will you start crafting your story this week? I hope it's a yes. I hope if what I've told you inspires you, that it's a yes. Because like I said, on average, 7 years, people come to me after 7 years of dreaming about this. Nothing I've shared is fluff, and it's all proven, so it can work. Do not take shortcuts, because excellence is what I teach. It's how you stand out. It's how I have been on so many stages. It's how my clients have been on so many stages. Why you showed up today. You wanted the inside scoop on how I turned my very dramatic and traumatic life into a story that has become the foundation of my biz. So you could do the same. You probably didn't know about me yet, but Healing Through Story, the title is about this. How do you turn your trauma story, drama story into something that heals you, that you can present for others? You wanted to learn techniques that could help you get unstuck. You wanted to see if there was money to be made in a story-based business. And yes, there absolutely is. This is how you stand out. This is how you help people. This is why when you have your story down, people want to invite you on telesummits like this, on interviews, as a master, as a guest mastermind expert. So it's time for you to demand success right now and create the business of your dreams based on the lessons you've learned from a life well lived. For you to take what you've learned seriously enough to share it fully in your voice, your creativity, and your power. So you might still have questions. What story do I share? Because you still might have multiple stories and you're like, well, which one? Or how do I choose, and how long should it be? How do I craft it into a captivating story, right? I talked about events versus stories that people want to see and listen to. How does sharing my story add to my bottom line? So I told you I had a bonus, and I'm sure I have another free gift. I can't remember what it is. So I hope you do. But this is super cool. I decided to add it on because I gave you this exercise here. And if you do this exercise, this is only for you if you do this exercise, because this is for you, for me to look at maybe what those stories were and help you choose that. It's a 15-minute laser coaching to nail down exactly what is keeping you from reaching your storytelling goals. And it's not often what you think. $75, because I'm $300 an hour now. And it's free for you guys, but you have to commit to doing that finding your story exercise. If you already know your story, we can do it, but I need to, I would love it if you did that exercise. Like if you needed, that's what this is best for. So that's my gift to you. This is my email. I'm put Summit 15 in the subject line, and it's even better to message me on Facebook because I have box like a lot of people probably do as a creative. I don't want it to get lost, but you can definitely write me, Brenda at forgivenessandfreedom.com, Summit 15 line, and we will set up a 15-minute call in the next 2 weeks. It expires after that. And yes, I might have something else too. And then of course you can message me, and I'd love you to message me anyway. Brenda Adelman and Friends Me. So schedule that today. Send you to my scheduler. Final step. Oh yes, when you sign up for that, I'll send you a short questionnaire that will help me to help you in just minutes. There you go. And that's the last slide. Okay. Did I stop the share or no?
Yes.
Ah, yay. Okay, good. Oh, there we go.
Thank you, Brenda. That was amazing.
Love it,
you.
Brenda. That's so generous of you.
Thank you. I'm reading the notes now. Thank you, because I was like, I can't do all of that. Thank you so much. Let's see.
So I copied the links for everyone in the chat already, and so
Oh,
you did
great.
have.
I have that three-part series. Great. That is
Exactly.
Tell Your Story, Heal Yourself, Create More Wealth. That's a 3-part video series that is awesome. I'm glad I'm telling
Wonderful.
it now. Life-changing. Great. Anything else I need to answer here? In the work of pictures. What do you think? John, why don't you message me that, since the chat will go away, and handle the emotions. Love it. Get in touch with me. Great. LinkedIn. Facebook is my social media drug of choice though right now. So hopefully I'll see you if you're on LinkedIn. And great. Thank you. Thank you, Olivia. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for having me. Does anybody have any questions? I know that was a lot of good stuff.
It really was. It was. Olivia and I were messaging each other back and forth, saying how many notes we were taking from what you were sharing.
Thank you. This is a really new webinar that I put together. So that's why I wasn't sure how long it would take. So I was rushing a little. I might have to take something out of it, but that's awesome. That's exciting for me.
Yeah, it was very, very good. And I love your exercises. I've done something similar to that. I love the addition. What I hadn't done really though was do the circle patterns of looking and seeing what the kind of the through line was for the different points.
It's really powerful. And what I'll say is, if you're doing a full length talk, you could even look for 2 patterns or 2 themes, and you could probably weave both of those in. And it keeps you on track when you're doing a full length talk or show to know, as you look at all the different stories, you're like, does it fit into this theme? And if it doesn't, you're like, let me focus on something else. We can get things done quickly. And also it'll keep you going when it's the theme or the pattern of your life, because when life gets in the way and we face these hardships, if it's still our theme of our life or a pattern that we want to keep going, because we know it's going to help us,
Yeah, absolutely. That was very, very good.
Thank you.
So thank you. And
Thank you.
Yes, I'd love for everyone to just unmute and give you a round of applause, Brenda, just for being who you are and so brilliant today and sharing that with us. So
thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
And I imagine there'll be a replay. So for everybody who's listening to the replay too, just make sure you reach out to me this week, or because the 15-minute calls will just be until the following week, which I think that's probably the 7th of August or something like that. But everybody the other bonus, and it's powerful. I think there's 7 different ways to tell your story in one of those videos and stuff like that. Okay.
Wow, cool. Very good.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll promote it out.
Yep. And we are live on YouTube. So
Brenda,
it will be shared out that way.
Great.
Oh, John has a question.
Yes.
Yeah. I just went to your Facebook page and I can't message you. It's not on there. Do I have to be your friend before I can message you?
Did you went to Brenda Adelman, not my business page? That's so strange.
Yeah.
You should
Well,
be
no,
able
I can't tell you whether it's your business page. It has your picture all over it.
Yes, that's on both of them. Well, if it's just Brenda Adelman, that is my personal page. If you can't message me, just friend me, and then